Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, December 26th, 2023. One of the most tragic situations I've ever been involved in all of my years of ministry, was the tragic death of a 5-year-old child due to a traffic accident. Before the grieving process was anywhere near completed, the family ended up leaving the state to avoid recriminations, and partially because the mother bore some responsibility for the accident, and to avoid penalties, they decided to leave. And as I've looked through other situations in my ministry, some of the most other tragic situations I've seen have been the breakdowns of marriage. The death of a marriage has many of the same characteristics as that tragic death. There's often substance abuse, lack of accountability on the involved partner, a strong desire to avoid any possible recriminations for our selfishness, and the marriage breaks down, and it's tragic. In today's passage, Jesus is approached by some self-serving individuals who do not have any feelings of compassion or care for other hurting individuals. They just want to prove a point and make themselves look spiritually superior. And Jesus deals with them. In Mark chapter 10, verses 1 to 12, and I'm reading from the New Living Translation, second edition, it says, "Then Jesus left Capernaum and went down to the region of Judea and into the area east of the Jordan River. Once again, crowds gathered around him, and as usual, he was teaching them. Some Pharisees came and tried to trap him with this question: should a man be allowed to divorce his wife? Jesus answered them with a question. Well, what did Moses say in the law about divorce? Well, he permitted it, they replied. He said a man can give his wife a written notice of divorce and send her away. But Jesus responded, he wrote this commandment only as a concession to your hard hearts. But God made them male and female from the beginning of creation. This explains why a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one. Since they are no longer two, but one, let no one split apart what God has joined together." Now, later, when he was alone with the disciples in the house, they brought up the subject again. He told them whoever divorces his wife and marries someone else commits adultery against her. And if a woman divorces her husband and marries someone else, she commits adultery. Again, this discussion was not prompted by someone like Peter or one of the other disciples saying, "Please help me, I'm struggling. My wife and mother-in-law are all up in my face about leaving the fishing business to come follow you. What should I do? I'm struggling and hurting." It's not that situation. This is the Pharisees using a controversial subject to damage Jesus. They're coming with the intent to harm, and so his answer to them needs to be received in that light. Jesus countered, what did Moses say? Well, they sort of misquoted and quoted around Deuteronomy 24:1 and mentioned that according to Moses, a husband could send his wife away with a public written declaration. And Jesus immediately said that's a concession to your hard-heartedness, because it's better than him trying to do it in secret. If you want to divorce your wife, then it's a public issue. If you're going to send her away, then you have to give her a written decree so everybody knows, and she can document for anybody who asks, he sent me away. Instead of just quietly doing it and kicking her out and kicking her to the curb and discarding her like an old shoe. God's intention is that the two be joined into one, united into one. And only God should split them up. Because it's a controversial subject, Because they were not sure they understood, the disciples asked Jesus in private to explain it further. He essentially told them that marriage is sacred. You're not supposed to discard your spouse like a pair of worn-out shoes. Marriage is a sacred action of God and should be taken seriously. If you vow before God to keep your marriage relationship pure and undefiled, you should keep your word. And our lives and our world and our marriages would be so much better if both sides could keep their vows and keep their words and take it seriously and not just think, I'm getting married for this week, and understand that it is a sacred vow and commitment before God. Please, work on your marriage this week. And if you find yourself in a situation where your marriage has failed, you need to understand that there's love and forgiveness following the failure. God recognizes that sometimes our marriages fail, and if He hears our pain, He knows our pain, and He wants to help us with the pain of a failed marriage. May God bless you with the ability to see the sacred nature of marriage that encourages and edifies and builds up each pair of the marriage, and not the selfish perversion of marriage that seeks to harm people and hurts people, like the Pharisees were using their example for, and like so many others where selfishness runs rampant and hurt is caused. May your marriage be blessed of God, and may you be blessed of God in a good marriage. God bless you.